Hello, everyone. This is Mike, and I'm checking in to the channel here, the four things that heal BPD and NPD abuse. Don't get your hopes up. I'm not planning on coming back, but I wanted to acknowledge and respond to a comment that was left by somebody who's been watching the channel, and they made a video sharing their amazing recovery from their, I'm assuming BPD, destructive toxic BPD relationship. So I've got the link to that here in the description, and I strongly recommend, if I had the ability to command you, I would command you to go and watch that video, because it's it's a real shame if the things that I say to people in terms of my suggestion as to what to do to heal, it's a shame when people turn it into a he said, or he said, she said. And when people turn it into, well, that's what I don't have to do what you tell me. It's a shame that people do that. And so it's good to hear from somebody who I have no personal interaction with this. I've never seen this person before. I didn't even know they existed. He existed, and I have not interacted with him or spoken with him. And I sure as heck did not coach him in what to say. But everything that he says is exactly my experience, which means that this isn't my opinion. This is a fact. If you have some bacterial infection, and if you take antibiotics, you will have an experience. Another person completely unrelated to you, if they have a bacterial infection and they take antibiotics, they will have the exact same experience, because the medicine has the same effect on everybody's body. The four things has the same effect on everybody. And the only thing that is the difference is whether or not you follow instructions. If again, I use the same analogy. If you get antibiotics from a doctor, and the antibiotics instructions on the bottle says take one tablet 4 times a day for 10 days, and you only take one tablet every other day, and you go, well, it didn't work for me. Well, it's because you didn't follow instructions. It's real simple. You follow instructions, you're going to get the same results as everybody else. So I'm not going to even bother trying to tell you what he said. You can go listen to him. I'm going to check in with you again, and I'm giving you my reasons why I'm not coming back to the channel once again. The main thing is because I just don't relate anymore. I don't relate to your experience anymore. When I've gone back and listened to myself 2 years ago, if you go back to the very beginning of the channel, you will see me in the depths of, there's been a lot of painful things in my life, but easily right among the most painful toxic experience of my life. And I will listen to myself say things about the experience, and I'll go, oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah. Because I don't remember. It's not part of my experience anymore. It's like having a really bad illness, like when you're in it, and you're puking up green stuff, and you see, purple spots in your eyes, and when you shake your head, your head kind of, all the specific things associated with that illness. It's really important to you at the time, and right afterwards you're aware of, and when I saw the purple spots in front of my eyes. And then you talk to that same person after they've healed from that illness, a year, 2 years, 5 years later, they're going to say, yeah, I remember I was really sick. What was it like? I don't know. I think I puked, and you said that you had the purple spots in front of your eyes. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah. But that was a long time ago. Would you like to have that experience? Would you like to think about your toxic relationship with your borderline? Would you like to be able to think about it the same way and go, yeah, I remember I had this really messed up relationship, and I don't remember a lot. It was just, unfortunately, a very, somebody who had a lot of serious PTSD, and they were borderline, and yeah, they were. It was really hurtful to me. But it was such a long time ago. Would you like to have that experience? Because that is my experience. When I listen to the testimony of this gentleman, it sounds like he is having that experience as well, where he literally it's just not part of his life anymore. So I've got some notes here that I want to walk through, which I thought were important. So again, watch the link to, if anything else, you can stop listening to me now. Go listen to him. And you'll see that I'm not unique, that there isn't something special and amazing and unique about me, that I have, all of this, whatever. If you go and see somebody who's actually done the exact same thing that I did, you'll see that they're coming to the same conclusions, the conclusions that you aren't coming to, that you don't see, that you don't relate to. It's because you're still in a state of trauma. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's natural. So, in terms of doing the four things, let me be very clear. The four things are not something that you try. You either do them or you don't. And all of the four things, except for working with a psychologist, the first and the second and the fourth thing are things that can be done today for free. So anybody, anywhere in the world can do things 1, 2, and 4 today. You can get started with it. If you have an internet connection, that's all that you need to do all of them. And so number one, as we've said, is going no contact. When I say going no contact, let me repeat myself, because people seem to, as I read more and more of the comments, people seem to have difficulty understanding, exactly what that means. Going no contact is not something you try to do. Going no contact is not something that you do partially or pretty much, or going no contact means that you do everything humanly possible to make it impossible for your borderline ex to contact you. That's what going no contact means. It doesn't mean that you stop calling them and, oh my God, they called me. I was no contact, but then they called me. It doesn't mean keeping them on your Facebook and going onto their Facebook page or complaining about, I'm trying to go no contact, but they keep sending these Facebook messages. No, going no contact means that you do everything possible. You block them on your phone. You throw your phone in the river and you get a new unlisted phone number. You block them on Facebook, on Twitter, on whatever social media that they have a connection to. Oh, but they work at my job. Great. You quit and you get another job. Sorry. That's what no contact means. It means that you're willing to die in order to achieve no contact, because it will feel like it's killing you. So, you really do have to have that mindset. But they live down the street. They know where I live. Great. Move. Sorry, but I just bought a house. What do you want me to do about it? You're asking me how to heal? I'm telling you. You have to go no contact. And I'm telling you this, and I've mentioned it before. I won't mention this person's name because I have a great deal of respect and love for this person. But there's somebody that I know who has done all four things except for number one. And so I can tell you that, that this will take me into the next thing. That borderlines are human. First off, let's be clear. People with borderline personality disorder are human beings that have a tremendously horrific illness that is caused by unimaginable trauma. trauma that almost killed them and is almost killing them on a moment-by-moment basis. They are humans. They are not evil, even though they do things that are their actions can at times be very evil. But it's not because they're evil, it's because that they have a mental illness. Again, if you understand that they have an incurable mental illness, then you can have that much more ability to accept that you won't be able to have a normal relationship with them. They are toxic in intimate love settings, especially. In romantic relationships is where the explosive nature of the explosively toxic nature of their illness is most expressed in romantic relationships. And that will never change. And their toxicity is real. Toxicity is toxicity. It's not about, if you drink poison, making a pact with the poison and trying to be, have an agreement with the poison that, it's not going to harm you, it's not going to do anything. If you live in a place that has radioactive material, if you bring home radioactive material and put it in your bedroom, you're going to get sick. Being around toxic material is toxic to you. So number one is absolutely essential. And as I said, I know of somebody who has done 2, 3, and 4, but has not done number 1. And it is literally killing him. He is fighting for his physical survival. That's as much as I will say. And it's, again, it's as if somebody has toxic material in their bedroom, and they're saying, yeah, but I'm going to the doctor and I'm taking radiation medicine, and I'm exercising, and I'm meditating, and I'm talking to my therapist. And it's like, that's great, but you've got to get rid of the toxic material. You've got to move. So number 1 is going no contact, and you make it absolutely impossible for the other person to contact you. You get a restraining order, you move to another country, you do whatever it takes. No excuses. No excuses. Number 2 is, this is also something that has to happen. If you don't do number 2, it's very unlikely, in my experience, that you will heal. And if you want to know how huge of a difference it makes, go listen to the video that I've put in the description. That person shows very clearly that it's the 12 steps that has had the most powerful impact. Again, this is not somebody I have ever communicated with. So it's not like they're working with me and I'm teaching them how I did it. They did exactly what I said. Go to an online Zoom meeting. I assume it was a Zoom meeting. Go to a Zoom meeting for CODA. Go to a CODA meeting. You can't find one in your country? Great. Stop giving me that bullshit excuse. People giving me these bullshit excuses of, I can't go to CODA because there isn't any in my country. Half the time they're wrong about that or lying about that. The other one is, I haven't gone to CODA because of COVID. Right. So you're purposefully choosing to exclude the information that I've given you, which is you can go online and go to a Zoom meeting anywhere in the world. If you live anywhere in the world, you can find a Zoom meeting of CODA and go to it. So please stop giving me that bullshit excuse. So get your ass to a COVID meeting, get a sponsor, and work the steps. The steps have to be worked in their original form. I don't know how many versions of it there are, but the steps, laid out as it was laid out in the AA Blue Book. All right, so you have to go no contact, and you have to work the 12 steps. And these are things that can be done from, as I said, free, anybody, anywhere, no excuses. Number 3, work with a psychologist. This is the only one of the 4 things that isn't initially required. Some people say I can't go see a therapist because I don't have the money. Well, first off, it is possible to find counseling anywhere. I know because I've gone online and typed in free online counseling. I don't know what kind of counselors you're going to get, so even if somebody doesn't have any money, they can get counseling. But that is also taken care of, because if you work with a sponsor who has worked all 12 steps, they will take on the role similar to a counselor in many ways. If you work the 12 steps and go to meetings, you will have a support group of people whom you can get advice from and counseling from. So number 3 is not absolutely necessary, but it does work if you get a good therapist. Not all therapists know what the hell they're talking about. Not all therapists are familiar with the 12 steps. And just because somebody is a licensed therapist or has a PhD doesn't mean that they're healthy either. So, find a good therapist. It can be helpful, but it's not absolutely necessary. 1, 2, and 4 are the most necessary. So that's step number 3, is find a psychologist to work with. Number 4 is some kind of daily meditative practice. Now, number 4 is already inherent if you're working the 12 steps, because that is step 11. Having some kind of spiritual practice, meditative practice, doesn't matter. If you do those things with everything that you have, you will heal. I guarantee it. How long it will take, I don't know. But I can guarantee you one thing. The only thing I've ever guaranteed you is that if you do the 4 things with everything you have, especially 1, 2, and 4, if you do the 4 things with everything you have, like your life depends on it, because it does, then you will eventually completely heal from your toxic relationship. You will no longer be ruminating about them. You will not wake up in a sweat in the middle of the night. You will not have sadness. You will not have resentment. You will not feel the need for justice or revenge or any of that stuff that is really a form of PTSD, an incurable form of PTSD that never goes away. That's really what we're talking about. So what we're talking about here with the 12 steps is an actual remedy that stops the PTSD merry-go-round. It stops it and heals it. And there's no other thing in the universe that I've seen that does that. And anybody who tells you, oh, the 12 steps this, the 12 steps that, if they haven't done them thoroughly, then they can't speak from experience. So you've now got my experience, and now you've got on video somebody else's experience. And again, I'm not talking to this person or coached this person. Everything they say has come from themselves and themselves alone, which means it's not about me. So another thing I want to address, which is very common, which is I continue to see, and if you read the comments, you'll continue to see people saying things to the effect of, oh my God, I relate so much to you. Oh, your story and mine is just the same. Oh my God, you are saving my life right now. And they make it about me. And the reason why they feel such a strong connection to me is because they are isolated. One of the effects of being in a destructive, toxic relationship with a borderline or a narcissist is that you will become more and more isolated from other people, and especially other people who are victims. You will be isolated from them, which means that you will feel that your experience is unique. And I remember this. This was somebody, at that time I had been in 12-step work for 38 years. And I was involved with and madly in love with my borderline, and the beginning of the relationship, and all kinds of the crazy ups and downs were happening. And I was starting to, looking back in hindsight, beginning to feel the infection of the toxicity of the relationship. And I called my therapist because I had regular, meetings with my therapist. And I remember making the decision that I wasn't going to tell him the negative things. I was only going to tell him my amazing positive things because of the love bombing. And I was going to explain to him how I'd met the love of my life and she was the best thing, blah, blah, blah. And the reason why I chose not to tell him of the bad things is because I knew that he would voice some concern. And I also told myself that, yeah, but we're different. This relationship that we have, my borderline and me, is unique and different, and he won't understand. So I'm not going to tell him. That is the isolation that happens. So you've been in this relationship for who knows how long, and you have stayed isolated. So you don't know. You do feel different. Your borderline tells you that it's different, either outright or energetically. You get the feeling of, I have to be different. This is a different relationship. This is unique. So when you hear me talk about the intricacies from a healthy perspective, I'm not one of these guys on YouTube who's talking about, some super empath who's talking about how they destroyed the narcissist. And, that's just the same, they're not anywhere in any healing capacity whatsoever. So you don't hear anything unusual. You don't hear anything. You relate to it. Maybe you agree with it. Maybe it inflames your all of the painful feelings, and you're connecting with them on your PTSD. But when you hear me talk about my perception of the borderline and what it did to me, it's coming from a place of healing, which is why it's so powerfully connecting to you. Because you finally hear somebody telling your story for the first time, it seems. And so you think that you and I have this special bond. And we don't. I'm just the only person that you have access to who's telling you what's really going on. As the person in this video will most likely tell you, once you hook up with other people in CODA who have been in other kinds of toxic relationships, you find out that you are not unique at all, and that anybody who's been in one of these relationships goes through the exact same experience. Again, people say, oh my God, you're talking about, that's exactly what happened to me. Like your experience and my experience is exactly the same. And, we should hang out. And can I have your phone number? And I'm like, no, you don't get to have my phone number. I don't know you. And stop projecting onto me that you and I are the same. Because when it really comes down to it, the only thing that we have in common is that we dated a borderline. All the other specifics are very different. Oh man, it's exactly the same. No, the feelings are exactly the same, and they are the exact symptoms of PTSD that everyone goes through who's been with a borderline. I'm just one of the few people that's explaining it to you from a space of recovery, and you've never heard that before. And when somebody talks from a space of recovery, they actually go much deeper into the actual source of the trauma, which is really what you need and what you're really responding to. So if you want that same feeling that you have listening to me thinking, oh my God, this is my therapy, you're my therapist, I'm just a video, then get your ass to a CODA meeting and start sharing with other people who are in recovery, and you'll find out that I'm not unique and neither are you. That's actually your narcissism that feels that way. And one of the reasons why I don't, just to let you know, why I don't give out my phone number to people who want to connect with me, because I don't want to be pulled into their narcissism, which is what that is. It's a way of trying to pull me into their narcissism. And going to a place where there's a bunch of people who are in recovery, who have the same experience as you, but they're on the other side, that actually destroys your narcissism, which is why I recommend that people do that. I tried very briefly counseling people because they asked me to, and they offered to pay me. And I found out, I think I did 3 or 4 of those counseling sessions. And after those 4, I was like, this is a waste of my time. I'm not, the only thing I'm doing is I'm just simply repeating the things that I've said on the channel and telling them to go do the 4 things. And that's all that I have to offer in terms of your healing, is go do the 4 things. So the single most powerful transformative action that I have taken in my life was the 4th step. According to the AA Blue Book, I still do the 4th step when I need to. So the 4th step was the pivotal thing that actually healed me from my borderline, which tells you that the main component that keeps you trapped in the PTSD merry-go-round is resentment. Resentment means, when you're angry because they harmed you, they rejected you, being obsessed with them, and why don't they love me back, and what happens if are they going to hoover me back in, and well, they said this, does that mean that, and what if I get them into therapy? These are all things that will be resolved when you do the 4th step, because the 4th step starts by focusing on the resentment, but it actually goes to your attachment, your obsession, your addiction. And you can sever that. You can sever the addictive, you can sever the pain, you can sever all the stuff that you think will never go away. The 4th step is literally the scissors that cuts that, and then you begin to heal. If you look at it in terms of, even if you haven't seen your borderline for 10 or 20 years, the fact that you are still in the mindset is like having a wire connected to them. They're still sucking all the life force out of you. Even though you haven't seen them, you haven't talked to them, it's been 20, 30 years. That's what I mean. It doesn't go away because you stop seeing them. And you need to sever that connection. And the way you sever that connection is the 4th step. You sever the connection and you're no longer having the energy pulled out of you. Again, whether that's real or not isn't important. That's definitely your experience. But when the energy stops being pulled out of you, guess what? You start to fill back up with energy and you start to heal. So that's my experience. The 4th step is the single most powerfully transformative action I've ever taken in my entire life. All right, so the reason why I continue to analyze, I've said everything that there's nothing more that I can say about BPD. If I do, I will just be repeating myself. So I've left all that stuff on the channel. I think it is really valuable. It was extremely valuable for me to understand, trying to understand the mindset of untreated borderline was extremely important, because I needed to know that I wasn't crazy. And it helped me. The more that I was able to understand, it made it easier for me to detach and to realize they have a mental illness and it's not about me and all of that. And it was very healing, because it healed a lot of things about my childhood, which I wasn't fully conscious of, that being with a borderline actually helped me to understand the toxicity and the abuse I suffered as a kid, which I was still suffering from as an adult. And so it was sort of like one of those cures, you take it, it makes you throw up. So being with the borderline forced me to do the 4-step, the 4 things even more deeply, on a deeper level, which brought me a level of cure I hadn't had. But there's nothing more that I can say. There's nothing left. I'm not obsessed. And like I said, I don't even remember. So the really important things that I had to spew out, which had to do with their mindset and my codependent interaction and all of that, it's not relevant to me anymore. I don't understand it. I get reminded of it when I hear you guys, talk in your comments, or when I listen to myself, 2.5 years ago. But I'm not in that same place, and so I don't think it's there's no relevance in me staying on the channel. So that's why I don't. And I don't do live streams for that reason anymore, because you're better off going to a CODA meeting and talking to a sponsor and talking with other people who are also in recovery. Having me, come at you with my harsh criticism is only meant to shock you into getting up off your ass and doing the work. Now go do the work with somebody in a more relaxed, healing setting. Okay, so I think I've talked about that. So understand that, this is in hindsight looking back. The main thing that can be said about, if you want to call it codependence, whatever word you want to use, it is a form of PTSD. In fact, it's CPTSD. It is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And it is a state of PTSD that never goes away. PTSD is a protection response. You're doing it to protect yourself from, lethal harm. From an emotional perspective, being with a borderline means you feel like you're about to die. You need them, you will die without them. And they use that. They give it to you, they take it away, they give it to you, they take it away. So you're constantly in this state of continual PTSD. That creates a cycle of PTSD that does not go away. And anybody, in my experience, who's been with a borderline and has gotten out of the relationship, you are in a cycle of PTSD that can't and won't stop on its own. No amount of therapy, in my experience, will stop it. No amount of spirituality, no amount of anything will stop it. The only thing that will stop it, in my experience, is the 12 steps. The 12 steps will stop that PTSD merry-go-round. And again, combined with therapy, it can be, that can be the best combination. But what's most important is, again, doing the 12 steps, and especially step 4. Step 4 cuts the PTSD connection, and then the merry-go-round slows down and stops, and you can finally get off if you keep doing the work. So the key is the 4th step. That's probably the most valuable thing I can tell anybody. I remember I was in my 12-step group. The reason why I'm not telling you what my 12-step program is because it's anonymous. And so to honor that, I am keeping it anonymous. Many people have guessed correctly, and you can probably do that as well. But my responsibility is to follow through with that anonymity. So I won't tell you what the 12-step program was, but I remember sitting in a meeting after a meeting, and I would share in meetings, and I would share about wanting to harm other people and my intense anger and things like that. Bear in mind, I hadn't worked the steps yet. And then as I sat there with my mohawk, which meant something back in the day, that was like, a frightening thing, I would sit on my hands because people would then want to come up and fix me. And they would walk up to me and they would start to give me advice, or they would start to fix me, or try and, codependently take care of me, or honestly give me advice. And I would have to sit on my hands because I wanted to punch them, because I couldn't tolerate any love. I couldn't tolerate anybody trying to fix me. I felt demeaned. And as I was sitting there, after the 5 or 6 people came up and said what they said, and I was sitting there by myself, ruminating in my pain and my anger, this old guy, he looked like he was 1,000 years old. And he looked over at me and he said, the key is to work the 4th step. And I must have looked at him and then looked back, and he must have known that I didn't really hear what he said. He said, listen to me, goddammit, I know what I'm talking about. I've been in recovery for over 40 fucking years, and the way that I did it was I did the 4th step. So get up off your ass and do the 4th step, and then you don't have to feel so shitty. It's the best advice I ever got. And I'm going to say that to you. If you want to feel better, that's the answer. Number 1, 2, and 4. And anybody can do them. And if you don't choose to do them, it's because it's your choice. It's as simple as that. And you can come up with any justification you want, but the bottom line is that you just choose not to do it. That's it. And then it's on you. That's another reason I refuse to continue to go on live streams and talk to people who are refusing to follow my advice. You want what I have, you got to do what I do. And then once you've done what I've done, then you realize that I'm nothing special. And now you can go tell people the same thing, and you'll have my same experience when they come back to you and give you excuses about, oh, well, I can't do that because of COVID. Oh, I can't do that because I don't have a computer. Oh, you have a phone? Oh, yeah, I can get a Zoom app on my phone. I can't do it because, she's the mother of my child, and I can't do that because, and you just roll your eyes because you remember you were there. The only reason that I was able to do this is because I've been doing 12-step work for, at that time, it had been 38 years. And so when I was in so much pain that I literally felt like it was going to give me cancer and kill me, like, dead straight with you, the pain was so intense I could feel it in my body. I got scared and I said, I'm in serious trouble. And I knew that I was in very serious codependent trouble. And I said, I'm a codependent. And I got up off my ass and I did the most difficult thing the two most difficult things. One was to go complete no contact, telling my borderline ex to please never contact me again. And then once getting off the phone, making it impossible for her to contact me, and then getting my ass to a CODA meeting and telling people, that I was brand new in the CODA 12 steps and that I needed help. And then I did the 12 steps and I did the 4th step, shared it with my sponsor, and the healing was almost immediate. And after about 2 months of working the 12 steps, I was completely healed. Now, I don't know how long it'll take you, but this gentleman in this says that he spent 2 months and he's experienced the same healing. So maybe if you work your ass off for 2 months, you can be completely healed of this. But it's completely up to you. You can get healing from your borderline relationship if you want it. So that's it. I've said everything that needs to be said about the nature of BPD. I've said everything that needs to be said about what you need to do to heal. And if you don't believe me, don't take my word for it. Go watch this video. So probably won't be back. If I do, it'll be one of these. I'll check in for one video and say, hey, go do this or whatever. But that's all there is to it, guys. There's really nothing more for me to say. So I wish you all the best, and my honest hope for you is that you do the 4 things and never have to watch this channel again. If you want to continue the spiritual practice, the self-examination, the meditative life, you can come over to my other YouTube channel, which is the thunderwizard.com channel. All kinds of crazy, weird stuff over there. You may or may not like it, but if you want to interact with me, that's the place to do it. No longer on this channel. Best of luck. Go do the 4 things, and then you never have to feel like you're feeling ever again.